Welcome to the Explainer. So, today we are doing something a bit different and honestly, a lot of fun. The source material actually frames this JavaScript code analysis as an interactive game show. We're going to put your logic skills to the test, specifically zeroing in on logical operators with a rapid-fire game of true or false. If you've ever stared at your screen feeling like your code is just drowning in endless, complicated if statements, well, this is exactly the explainer you need. So get ready to guess along as we figure out exactly how JavaScript decides what is true and what is totally false. Let's jump right in.
All right, to kick things off, let's look at a super common programming hurdle. By now, you already know how to write simple if statements to check a single condition, right? But what happens when you suddenly need to check multiple conditions at the exact same time? Say, for example, you need to write a piece of code to check if a user is between 18 and 30 years old. Sure, you could write this messy, nested maze of if statements inside of other if statements, but let's be real, that gets really ugly really fast. We need a much cleaner way to handle these complex rules. To solve this, we're pulling a brilliant scenario straight from our source material. We are going to build the logic for a highly exclusive, super strict 18 to 30 package holiday. The rules of our game are simple, and as the source hilariously puts it, unless you're 18 to 30, you ain't coming. We don't want old fogies, and obviously no one under 18 either. So we need to write JavaScript that strictly enforces these exact rules, and we're going to do it by bringing in our very first logical operator. Meet the strict bouncer of our JavaScript club, the AND operator. You'll recognize this in your code as two ampersands sitting side by side. The golden rule of the AND operator is incredibly simple but entirely absolute. For the whole expression to evaluate to true, both conditions on either side of it absolutely must be true. If even one tiny thing is false, the whole thing gets rejected. No exceptions. It's totally an all or nothing deal.
So let's see how we actually apply this in practice. It is officially time for round one of our game. Take a look at our strict bouncer logic here. My age must be greater than or equal to 18, and my age must be less than or equal to 30. Step right up, contestant number 1. This user has their my age variable set to exactly 25. Now I want you to evaluate this code and guess. Based on our double ampersand bouncer, does this statement return true or false? Lock in your answers.
And the answer is true, because 25 is perfectly over that 18 minimum, and it's safely under the 30 maximum. Both of those individual conditions are met. The left side is true, the right side is true, so the entire AND expression is true. Our 25-year-old gets the success message, you can come, you cool dude. They are officially booked for the holiday.
All right, let's keep the game moving. Next contestant in line. We're using the exact same bouncer and that exact same strict AND operator rule. But this time around, our user has their my age variable set to 15. So evaluating these two conditions, does this entire expression evaluate to true or false? Think about it for a second.
The answer here is false, and here is exactly why. While 15 is indeed less than 30, meaning the right side of our code actually passes, it utterly fails that first check. 15 is obviously not greater than or equal to 18. Because we used the AND operator, remember, it is all or nothing. One single failure brings the whole house down. The expression instantly becomes false, and they get the else statement message, you ain't coming. Now let's see how this logic builds by looking at a completely different approach. Enter the OR operator. This one is represented by double pipes, which, pro tip, you can usually find on your keyboard by hitting Shift plus the / key. If the AND operator was our strict bouncer, the OR operator is basically our highly flexible ticket taker. It requires only one condition to evaluate to true. If the left side is true, it passes. If the right side is true, it passes. It literally only fails if absolutely everything is false.
Because the OR operator is so remarkably flexible, we're actually going to flip our logic entirely here. Instead of checking who can come on our holiday, we are now writing code to check for exclusions. We're looking for the people who are banned. Notice this new rule. If my age is less than 18 or my age is greater than 30, the exclusion triggers. Here comes our next contestant, and they are 35 years old. In this new flexible OR statement, what's your guess? True or false?
It evaluates to true. But remember, because we flipped our logic to check for who is banned, a true result here is actually bad news for the contestant. Let's break it down. 35 is not under 18, so the left side is totally false. But 35 is over 30. Because we use the OR operator, that one single successful hit on the right side is more than enough to make the entire expression true. The exclusion triggers and our 35-year-old gets hit with, you ain't coming.
Okay, let's give you a slightly trickier scenario for the game. We're going to run our 25-year-old cool dude back through this new flexible or statement. Remember our rule. We're checking if they are under 18 or over 30 to see if we should ban them. So for a 25-year-old, does this exclusion statement evaluate to true or false?
The answer is false. Let's look at why. Is 25 less than 18? Nope. Is 25 greater than 30? No again. Because absolutely both sides of the or statement are false, the entire expression finally evaluates to false. And honestly, this is just beautiful code logic, because the exclusion fails entirely, meaning our 25-year-old safely bypasses the ban and gets to pack their bags for the holiday.
Let's pause the game for just a quick second because this brilliantly illustrates the fundamental difference you really need to memorize as a developer. The double ampersand and operator is for mandatory requirements. Both sides must be true. It's super rigid. On the flip side, the double pipe or operator is for flexible paths. Only one side needs to be true for the logic to proceed. Understanding exactly when to use which is the absolute key to mastering JavaScript logic.
All right, back to the game. We're stepping things up with a cool concept called chaining. See, you aren't limited to just 2 conditions in JavaScript. You can actually chain as many as you want. Let's say our holiday company suddenly decides, you know what, we actually don't want 25-year-olds anymore. Notice how we've added a third or condition here, specifically targeting age 25. If we run our 25-year-old through this new, longer chained exclusion, does it return true or false?
It returns true. The first 2 conditions failed just like before, but the JavaScript engine keeps reading from left to right, and boom, it hits that third, highly specific condition, my age exactly equals 25. Because it's a giant or statement, that one single hit at the very end makes the entire massive chain evaluate to true. The ban triggers, and just like that, our 25-year-old is suddenly kicked off the trip.
So here are your pro tips from the source material. The crucial takeaway is this. Logical operators are the absolute glue of complex JavaScript. When you're out there building dynamic applications, you are going to use them constantly. Whenever you have a strict, mandatory requirement where every single box must be checked, reach for the AND operator. And whenever you have a scenario with multiple acceptable paths or just multiple ways to trigger a single outcome, you reach for the OR operator. To wrap up today's explainer, I am leaving you with a final cliffhanger test to take straight to your own code editor. With our newly chained exclusion rule, the one banning anyone under 18, over 30, or exactly 25, a new user walks up to our club, and their age is exactly 26. Based on everything we've just learned about the flexible OR operator, does this evaluate to true or false? Do they actually get to go on the holiday? Boot up your JavaScript environment, test it out yourself, and figure it out. Thanks for playing along with this explainer, and happy coding.